Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Dale Stein, and let's queer up entertainment. An intimate look at the affair between Marlon Brando and Tennessee Williams. A mission pillar for Queer News tonight is to keep our history before our eyes and ears today. One interesting example is one of history's most notable writers and a relationship with one of history's greatest actors. Tennessee Williams once said of Marlon Brando, quote, "He was just about the best-looking young man I've ever seen," end quote. That first meeting in 1947 at Williams Nantucket summer home set the stage for one of the most iconic collaborations in theater history. It also inspired Gregg Ostrin's new Off-Broadway play, Kowalski, now captivating audiences. At just 23, Brando was a struggling actor. He reluctantly agreed to one gig and took money from Elia Kazan for a cab fare to head to Massachusetts to read for Williams. He saved the money, however, and hitchhiked instead. When he arrived, the house was flooded. Brando unclogged the flooded pipe at Williams' house and then began the reading of A Streetcar Named Desire. That night, filled with creative sparks and unspoken tension, changed their lives in American theater forever. Now, Kowalski dives into the genesis of Streetcar and the behind-the-scenes dynamics that brought it to life. It promises to shed light on the enigmatic chemistry between these artistic icons. Tennessee Williams was openly gay, and Marlon Brando had many notorious bisexual relationships, and there was much speculation about their relationship. But for young Marlon Brando, it was 1947, and his public image was perceived very differently than that of a writer. We can imagine the history. You can catch Kowalski at the Duke on 42nd Street in New York City till February 16th. Tickets are now available. Well, I think this is quite fascinating because, it's old school Hollywood drama, and I think it's really wonderful. And Marlon Brando was just gorgeous. Yeah. And we've long read and heard about, well, many of us of a certain age, perhaps not you, child, about this affair.
Right.
And the many affairs that the both of them had.
Right.
But I think this looks to be fantastic, and I'm eager to see it.
I love the start of the story. Just came over, cleared out those pipes.
Right. Unclogged the pipe.
Started flying. But we were just talking about a story last week with Faye, with Coleman Domingo. Mm-hmm. Fantastic actor who is, in an interview said, it's kind of weird that people call me a gay actor. You don't call straight actors. Right. Why do you do this? But I think this is why it's so important to identify, so that when people are looking back on history, even if you didn't have a big uphill struggle to get where you are, identifying as LGBTQ makes an enormous difference in the lives of people who are looking up to you and generations that will come.
Especially in those years when it was you just simply could not be out and have a career. I mean, look like Rock Hudson, for example. But now look at how different it is now, like with Jonathan Bailey. So out, and doing these parts that are heterosexual and being very successful at it.
Yeah. But at the same time, Marlon Brando didn't deny his relationships. He just didn't speak of them.
Speak of it, right.
And everyone knew. I mean, he had a famous lifetime affair with Wally Cox. They were supposedly, best husbands at one point. It was joked that they were a married couple, even though they both had spouses at the time. So, I mean, it's good to bring Marlon Brando and the history back to younger generations like Madame over here.
I think you mean Miss.
Oh, Miss.
Madame is older.
It's Mrs. She's married.
But it's important to bring, to show other generations.
I think it's really important that us younger people go see stories like this, because we can't forget the people who laid the groundwork for us like this. Yeah. It's so important. There are so many stories and people who have just been lost in time, especially queer people, and their stories have just been lost in time. So the few, and it is a few compared to all that there actually was, the few that we actually still have a grasp on, we need to celebrate them, uplift them, talk about them, advertise them, share them, make stories about them, books, movies, all this good stuff. We really need to keep them in the conversation, because they are still very, very important, especially when they're as fine as Marlon Brando and as regular looking as Tennessee Williams. It is very important that we continue to push these stories. So thank you all for laying the groundwork with your old asses. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing queer news tonight.